Disappointment as Amazon says no to KC. Greitens still grabbing the headlines, with prominent members of his own party now calling on him to resign. Can he survive? Is there any business getting done closer to home as a clash between Frank White and the Jackson County Legislature comes to a head? Plus, takeoff or grounded? New hurdles in the city's quest to get building on a new-look KCI. And he's just been at the White House. Is Sam Brownback's Washington job back on?
Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome everyone, I'm Nick Haynes and thank you for joining us on the program that goes beyond the soundbite and takes you behind the headlines making news in this place we call home. Connecting the dots on those stories this week, the host of Up to Date on KCUR-FM, Steve Kraske, the Kansas City Star's Big Issues reporter, Steve Vokrot, now reporting for KCPT and KCUR News, Barbara Shelley, and columnist and Star editorial writer, Dave Helling. Amazon won't be building its second headquarters in Kansas City, the online shopping giant giving the thumbs down to Kansas City's bid as it narrows its choices this week to 20 cities. We're just not one of them. What did those other places, though, have that Kansas City did not, Steve Vokrot?
Well, any number of things, and we don't know the precise reasons that Amazon skipped Kansas City.
Because they didn't tell us, did they?
They didn't tell us. My understanding is there have been some conversations between some officials here and Amazon, and you know, the feedback, as I understand it, has been that Kansas City made a good impression. But if you look at the map of where Amazon picked its 20 finalists, a lot of it's on the East Coast, so you're talking big cities, high population densities. You have strong universities in a lot of these cities, transit systems. These are all things that Amazon was looking at. There's a big hole in the middle of the map where Kansas City is. They've got Denver, about an 8-hour car ride to the west, which is a finalist. You got Nashville, 8-hour car ride to the east. You got Denver, or you got Dallas, 8-hour car ride to the south. Chicago up to the north. So I think that indicates that in the Midwest we have these some issues with transit, population density, things like that. And I think Amazon was probably passed it over for reasons that Kansas City in the short term can't really control.
Were there any cities on that final list, though, Barbara, you said, oh, well, why are they on there and Kansas City didn't make it?
Yeah, Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio. There's several that I think Kansas City would consider kind of peer cities that did make the list. Columbus has the University, Ohio State University, and one thing I would like to see this whole Amazon thing regenerate in Kansas City is a discussion about its university capacity. We had that discussion, I don't know, maybe a decade ago, and it kind of erupted into a fracas. But Kansas City does need to build its academic and university capacity if it really wants to compete.
Steve.
That's right. I mean, cutting higher education in Missouri year after year after year isn't going to get the job done, to Barb's point. And something else really struck me about this, Nick. This decision comes at a time when our city is struggling and struggling mightily to figure out the future of KCI. And this infighting certainly wouldn't be a major selling point for our city right now. A lot of folks might conclude that if our city can't figure out how to build an airport terminal, maybe we shouldn't be in the running for a major project like Amazon.
What was the reaction of city leaders to this decision, Dave Helling? Were they sobbing in their boots over this?
No, they don't sob in their boots here in Kansas City. There may have been a sniffle or two, but there was not a lot of hand-wringing, because I do think that for all of the reasons we've discussed here, I think Kansas City was not overly optimistic that it would make the final list. And, for all the concern about Indianapolis or Raleigh, North Carolina was also on the finalist list. Minneapolis didn't make the cut, San Diego, San Francisco, and you can go down the list of important American cities that for whatever reason didn't satisfy the criteria either. But you do get the sense yesterday, talking with people down at City Hall and in other places, that there is going to be a pretty concerted effort to figure out why Kansas City was left off the list and to see what steps might be taken to address at least some of the concerns that have been outlined here.
Now, one local entrepreneur tweeting this week, Steve, Kansas City dodged a bullet. Money, time and effort needs to be local, not spent to swoon a behemoth corporation. But this was 50,000 jobs, right?
Right, and there is another side of a coin about trying to get a company like Amazon in town and the effect that it will have on a city. There's a fair amount of literature about, yeah, Amazon's been good for Seattle, but you have to also look at the costs and, you know, trying to put all your eggs in one basket for a company like that. I mean, in the context of Kansas City, Amazon would be by far, if they would have gotten this, would have been by far the largest employer in town. You know, taking jobs from other companies that are already here. Is there the capacity for it? I mean, there are some reasonable concerns about what Amazon's trying to do and what cities are trying to do to get them.
And let alone the incentive package that other cities are offering just in cold hard cash. I mean, New Jersey offered $7 billion in incentives for Amazon. That kind of expenditure just isn't worth it. No company is worth that in the Kansas City area, none that exists now. So, you know, there are people who will tell you, yes, we dodged a bullet. We're not on the hook for things that other cities may end up being on.
Now, it hasn't been a great week for job news in Kansas City. While there has been tons of headlines about Kansas City losing Sprint at a takeover deal potentially, the Metro's 7th largest company announcing it's being bought up by a Connecticut-based rival. DST, based in downtown Kansas City, employs just shy of 5,000 local workers, making it almost twice as big an employer as Hallmark and much bigger than Garmin, the GM plant in Fairfax, and engineering giants Burns & McDonnell and Black & Veatch. But do we hear less about this because we all know what greeting cards are and cell phones, but we really don't quite have a handle on what DST does, Steve?
DST is an interesting company. I mean, what they do isn't terribly sexy. It's not really consumer facing. It's a lot of data processing, a lot of information management, things like that, software. What they tend to be best known for in a public sense is their extensive land holdings. They own a lot of real estate in downtown, a little bit beyond downtown and some other places around the city. That's been the subject of a shareholder dispute over the years. You know, shareholders look at what they do and they say, why do you guys own a real estate in Kansas City? They've sold a little bit of it. Me and a colleague over at the Star have been looking at what they've sold and what they've held on to. It's not as drastic a sell-off as people have said, but you know, stay tuned for that.
Again, it doesn't get the same name recognition of the Sprints and the Hallmarks, but it still has a role to play here in Kansas City. What's the significance of this,
Nick,
Steve?
A very significant role. Insiders know of DST because of the how important they were behind the scenes in deal after deal. You think of where the downtown public library is. DST helped put that together. You think of the Kauffman Center for the Performing Arts. DST pulled the land together to make that a possibility. Bill Doremus, Tom McDonald, the former CEOs of DST, huge, important inside players in terms of making this city go, taking this city from a mid-level city to something maybe more of a premier town in America. Very, very important contributions that this corporation made over the years.
Well, last week it was Democrats calling for his impeachment and his resignation. Now, 5 senators from the Missouri governor's own party are calling on him to step down a week after Eric Greitens acknowledged he had an extramarital affair, but has denied allegations he blackmailed the woman to keep it quiet.
Has already affected our ability to govern as the legislature. The House has set aside its effort to pass meaningful ethics reform because of this dark cloud. Your State of the State speech was totally derailed, and you yourself have postponed the rollout of your tax reform proposal. The most important thing is that the people of Missouri must be able to have confidence in their government. But given everything that's happened, they might forgive, but they won't forget. So, Governor, I'm asking you, please resign.
Republican Senator Rob Schaaf from just north of us in St. Joseph. I should point out, by the way, we do tape this program on a Friday morning, so anything can change, and frequently does. But now some time has passed. Are the governor's prospects of staying in office better, worse, or about the same as when the story first broke, Steve Kraske?
Well, Nick, it's a little bit hard to tell. So many rumors in the state capitol this morning as we tape this about his future. Having said that, he has survived the first week post-scandal, which, you know, crisis management people will tell you is an important time period. He's still on the job, and we'll see where we go here. But, you know, so many factors playing into what his future is. His wife has left on reportedly a vacation with their kids. Eric Greitens now is left in the governor's mansion by himself. An increasing number of Republican lawmakers now, Nick, calling for him to step down. He's withstanding the storm, starting to talk about issues more and more. But, boy, you get a sense this morning that his governorship very much still hangs in the balance.
Rob Schaff, though, was a frequent critic, which we just heard of, even though he's a Republican, was a frequent critic of Governor Greitens anyway, Barbara.
Yeah, he was and he is. And, you know, this might be a different situation if the governor had any kind of cushion of goodwill to weather this scandal.
Yes.
His actions in his first year have made it a lot harder for him. You know, to me, there's still a path forward for him to be a successful governor, but he would have to change a lot of things. He would have to show some real humility. He would have to...
Has he not done that? He's done 2 announcements and he has apologized.
Yeah.
Is that not sufficient?
No, because he's, you know, done this via statements on Facebook. He needs to actually meet with people. But it's not just about this affair that he's admitted to. It's just his whole actions in office. Like, I am great and everybody else is a crooked, corrupt politician, whatever. If he would really get out and talk to Missourians and listen to Missourians and act like he cares about Missouri instead of his own political aspirations, there might be a way forward for him as governor.
Is there a way forward for him, Dave?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. You know, you asked earlier, can he survive? Or that seems to be the general consensus. And the reality is, yeah, he can probably survive, but survival is the lowest bar of all. I mean, what can he do after he keeps the job? And the reality is he has made so many enemies in the legislature, in both parties, that even if he stays, Nick, you get the sense that the General Assembly will chart its own path on taxes, for example, spending, other things. Now, it'll be conservative. It's controlled by the Republicans. They have veto-proof majorities. And so what may happen, the path forward may be that he stays governor, but he becomes increasingly irrelevant. And he may decide that's not what he wants to do for the next 3 years. So if he quits, it may be not so much because of the scandal itself, but the idea that his future politically is not sitting around for the next 3 years watching the General Assembly go to work.
You know, just to underscore a point Barb made, you know, here we are 10 days since this story broke, Nick. He still hasn't stepped forward and talked to his state about what's transpired, about what the path forward is. Absolutely breathtaking, maybe a sign of profound arrogance here that he can't come before reporters, answer their questions, explain what he wants to do.
But he wasn't going before reporters before this, though, was he, Steve?
Change.
Yeah, yeah, he wasn't going before reporters, but I mean, the context of his situation's a lot different now, and
yes,
it probably behooves him to say a little something.
But I mean, he's planning to go throughout the state, or at least arguably go through the state next week to push the specifics of his tax plan. And if he steps into the public eye, reporters are going to say, great on the tax plan. Let me ask you this. You know, and until he deals with that part of it, then he can't possibly move forward. And I think what Steve and Barb and my friend Steve Vockrodt are saying is, until you confront it directly, it's going to be in the background of everything you do, yes. And the only path forward is to try and move it off the front page, and he hasn't done so yet.
If Eric Greitens were to resign or be removed from office, who would replace him? Well, according to the Missouri Constitution, in the event a governor dies, resigns, or is removed, the lieutenant governor would take over. Well, who is that, you say? Well, he's brand new, too. Remember these ads from last fall?
I'm Mike Parson. My Missouri values run deep and are rooted in agriculture. I'm a third-generation farmer, veteran, and former sheriff who believes government is best when it does the least. It's why I fought against Obamacare. It's why I've always defended the Second Amendment. As your lieutenant governor, I'll cut spending, cut taxes, and get the federal government off our backs.
Mike Parson, conservative Republican for lieutenant governor.
Alrighty, so he's a good shot. He knows his way around a farm field, and he's a former sheriff. What else do we know about the man just a few breaths away from being governor, Steve?
Well, he's a former state senator. He has a lot of allies, a lot of friends in the legislature from years of service down there. Pretty broadly respected, Nick. But just to point out that even in that ad, he says he'll cut taxes as lieutenant governor. Lieutenant governors can't cut taxes, just for the record.
Okay, all righty.
Yeah.
But would it play out that way, though, Dave Helling, that if Governor Greitens were to resign, that Mike Parson would immediately take that position?
Well, yes. I mean, he would be sworn in. Obviously, it might take a little bit of time for that to happen. You know, Mike Parson is very well respected among members of the General Assembly, and he would be just a classical conservative governor in the state of Missouri. And so you get the sense that some Republicans are calling for Governor Greitens to resign, in part because they know Mike Parsons is in the waiting room. But as Steve will tell you, Democrats would rather have Greitens stick around in some way.
I was just going to say that. They want him to stay. They see him as damaged. They can run against him in the midterm elections this year. Mike Parson, they fear, will funnel the entire conservative agenda through the legislature very quickly.
Well, speaking of governors, should Sam Brownback be calling back the moving trucks to pick up his stuff? The Kansas governor has just been at the White House, and now his nomination to be ambassador at large for international religious freedom is back on. He just got green-lighted by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for the second time this week. That means Brownback's nomination now moves to the full United States Senate. I didn't see any hearings, though, so Sam Brownback wasn't testifying again this week?
He was not. The nomination was considered in executive session by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The fact that they had another vote is pretty telling, though. One assumes they would not go through this process again if they didn't think they had the votes at some point on the floor. Otherwise, they'd just let it die, and Brownback would serve out the remainder of the term. So I think the chances are higher now than they've been in some time that Sam Brownback will be leaving Kansas. My guess is in the next 2 weeks to 30 days.
Is that the way you see it, Barbara?
I think so. It just kind of strikes me that this position that Governor Brownback is taking, Ambassador for Religious Freedom, hasn't seemed to be a high priority of anybody this first year of the Trump administration, which is kind of ironic considering how Governor Brownback always wanted smaller government and to shrink government, and now he's taking another government position that seems kind of extraneous. But be that as it may, yeah, I think that it could be that Kansas will finally get some resolution as to who is actually the governor.
You know, Nick, what an extraordinary moment this is, though. Here we are sitting here talking about governors in both our states, apparently, possibly on the way out, both at one point very, very popular in their states. Look how quickly both fell in relative speaking terms, I guess.
Well, with uncertainty over Sam Brownback's future in Topeka and with negative headlines circling around the Missouri governor, some may be wondering if any business is getting done in our state capitals. But the same could be said closer to home, where the relationship between the Jackson County executive, Frank White, and the legislators who run county government have gotten so bad, sheriff deputies were actually called in to keep the peace. Legislators are even toying with a plan to have the Attorney General investigate whether White is even qualified for his job. They claim he hadn't paid all his local and state taxes when he ran for the office. Candidates who are behind on their taxes are disqualified from running for office, and lying on the form is perjury. Are Jackson County legislators not going to be happy until Frank White is gone? Or is this just a short-term spat, Steve Vogt?
Well, there have been issues simmering for a while between the county executive and the legislature, but now it's, obviously reaching a pretty high profile for a number of different reasons. There's the reasons you outlined, including Frank White's tax situation, some of his personal financial issues that have been reported. There's also this issue about who really has jurisdiction and control over combat funds. Combat is a sales tax that's collected in Jackson County for drug and violence prevention. And you really get a feeling that both sides have really dug in their heels over this issue, which is, of course, why they're probably going to get a judge to sort out some of these issues and maybe the Attorney General to sort out some of the others.
Do you think they're not going to be happy, though, until he's gone, Barbara?
Pretty much. And there is an election coming up this year for that county executive's position. Yeah, he just got crosswise with the legislature right away with some of the staff choices he made, and a lot of money and control issues there.
Steve, you make the connection in a column this week that really Frank White has some of the same problems that Eric Greitens does, and that is when we vote for people who actually have no political experience.
You know, absolutely, Nick. And just to underscore this point, relations between lawmakers in Jackson County and the county executive irreparably broken, in my view. They can't get this back. You have legislators, you know, feeding reporters stories about Frank White's tax situation. You know, they want him gone. They particularly don't like his chief of staff. They think the entire executive team has been way too slow to respond to the ongoing crisis at the county jail. They see White as a rookie way in over his head. They want him gone. Nothing's going to happen that's good, that's productive out of Jackson County until they figure this out.
Well, the streetcar is back in the news this week, and it's not because Kansas City's deep freeze wreaked havoc on the system, though it certainly did. Last summer, you may recall, voters in Kansas City approved a measure requiring citywide elections on any future streetcar expansion efforts. There was concern that only a small slither of the electorate living around the proposed route were deciding the outcome in cumbersome mail-in elections. Well, this week, the Kansas City Council overturned that vote. 51% of Kansas Cityans voted in August to say, yes, we want a say, and this should be a citywide decision. So why did the city reject the choice they made at the ballot box, Dave?
Well, because there is enthusiasm for at least some study and a vote on extending the line south toward UMKC and then maybe north as well. And the council has the right to do this. Any initiated ordinance can be changed, amended, or repealed with a supermajority in the first year and then a regular majority after that. But it is risky because the public did speak, and there is some sense that the public wants to make sure that before the streetcar system really gets out of hand, that the entire city should weigh in on the financing mechanism, direction, that type of thing. So it was a bit of a risk, but it's not improper or illegal.
But City Councilwoman Heather Hall certainly didn't like it, calling it a dangerous precedent this week, Steve Bockrot. I have a real problem with this. We live in a country where voters' voices are supposed to be heard.
Right, and you know there is some precedent for this. You'll remember that the Kansas City Council did this back in 2007 after Clay Chastain had one of his light rail plans approved at the ballot box the year before. So they have done this, but there is a political price you can pay if the voters feel like the council is just really disregarding their wishes. There's some council people who are rationalizing it to themselves, saying, well, the ballot language was confusing, so we think people just got it mixed up. I don't know how much proof they have on that position.
To the point that he just made, I was just going to say the same thing. There were actually 3 light rail questions on that, and even on election day, I talked to people who thought that by voting on this, it needs a citywide vote, that they were actually advancing the light rail measure that was on the ballot. It was confusing.
There's really a strong belief on the city council, Nick, that you've got to get this streetcar line at least out to UMKC to make this system worth something important to the community. The little starter line that runs 2.2 miles from Union Station down to the River Market isn't quite enough. You've got to get it farther. Now, I think that's going to happen. It's the question of the future of the line going beyond UMKC, going beyond the Plaza South. That's very much up in the air.
It's been 5 weeks now since the Kansas City Council held a surprising mutiny, voting down an agreement with the company the city picked to design and build the new $1 billion terminal at KCI. Now there's news that rescue efforts to negotiate with Edgemoor have hit a roadblock over who will actually get to work on the project. Labour is pushing for an agreement to use only unionized workers on the job, but that doesn't sit well with the city's minority community, who are underrepresented among union members. Even Edgemoor acknowledges that such a pact would make it impossible to meet its pledge to the city of a 35% participation rate at the site for minority and women-owned firms. But there are other hurdles too, including demands that more veterans be put to work on the project, and there's unease about a provision that could entitle Edgemoor to up to $30 million if the deal falls through. But given the scope and scale of this entire project, aren't these issues that can still be worked out, Steve?
Well, it's a negotiation. It's still going on, so theoretically anything can be worked out. There's some doubt about this idea that you could do a 100% labor union job and also have 35% women-owned business, minority-owned business enterprises participating in the project, because a lot of those MBEs and WBs are not union companies. And so, there's a little bit of tug of war on both sides about whether these negotiation points are even realistic to accomplish in any circumstance. So they had this meeting yesterday. It was kind of an odd meeting, but a lot of people on the council said, this is what I want, and they'll go back to the drawing table and see if they can get there. But Edgemoor's future on this project is not a sure thing.
So AECOM and Burns and McDonnell may still be salivating behind the scenes, still looking for an opportunity to get in on this?
Well, they may be, but there's no guarantee that if, I'm talking to some people in the city and in the council, there's no guarantee that they will just slide it over to the next runner-up bidder, which is AECOM, and now they've joined forces with Burns and McDonnell, which some people are arguing is a material change in their bid. And so there's an idea that they may just start the bidding process all over again.
Barbara?
I would suggest that insisting on 100% unionized workforce at KCI might invite some unwanted complications from the Missouri legislature, which doesn't like that kind of thing, and in fact has laws to prevent it.
Might we see, though, if we're going to start the bidding process again? I mean, will we ever see this new terminal being built?
Well, as a matter of fact, yesterday, Edgemoor told the city council that if, and their the legal, the attorneys involved in this said, if you push the Edgemoor agreement much past the end of January into, say, March, then the completion date for the airport will be pushed back. It's already starting to affect the timeline. If you go back for a new bidding process, it would probably delay the airport by a year, maybe two, in part because one assumes that bidding process would go on for 6 months, and then you'd have the same fight again that you had this time. I mean, there's no indication the council will take the second effort and say, well, this is great now. So 1 year, 2 year delay probably.
This may be common in other cities too, Nick, but my goodness, we make things hard in Kansas City. Here we are fighting over the terminal month after month after month. We're fighting over streetcar systems. Let's just...
Yeah, and let me just say quickly that Heather Hall is, says, hey, we have to accept the voters' will on the streetcar. She's in there trying to change, the Edgemoor contract, which voters understood.
But Edgemoor was not in that agreement.
No, but people understood that as they went.
And that is our weekend review. Our thanks to our news reviewers from the Kansas City Star, Steve Vokrot and Dave Helling, keeping you up to date 11 to noon weekdays on KCUR, Steve Kraske, and our triple threat reporting for KCPT, KCUR and The Pitch, Barbara Shelley. I'm Nick Haynes. From all of us at KCPT, thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.